concerned about family members in prison, but she also was a prison guard. And she was married to an ex-Marine who committed suicide because of the sense of abandonment that she felt and all that she witnessed. So we have some 1,100 pages of testimonies. We did hearings in 3 cities. Those hearings included people who were on the ground, who were victims, who spoke from positions where they saw the disempowerment of middle-class teachers, for example, by the way in which that situation turned into a disbandment and abandonment of the public school system and a reinvention of another kind of school system. We saw where there was a contract let, $1 million plus contract let to a group called Kenyan Funeral Home Directors from Texas, which is why the bodies were treated the way they were, because that contractor had no clue about the indigenous population and the transportation system and so forth in the streets and roads of New Orleans. We have testimony from black female physician who was the head physician in the VA hospital and talked about the disparate treatment that went on between the private hospitals and the public hospitals. So what we have done is to put all of that in a DVD that gives highlights of that testimony, but also word for word transcription of some 1,100 pages of those testimonies that were held in 3 cities. We also had the chief of FEMA and Red Cross and Senator Clinton at the time and Senator Obama at the time wrote the foreword to the public policy book that we did, which was a result and a synthesis of that. But the most important thing that I think we can understand is that as General Honore gave us a briefing, not a testimony because we were civilian, a briefing. He said if your cell phone works, you don't have a disaster, you have an inconvenience. And so what you need to do is figure out what you're gonna do when it happens again, number one. And number two, you have to think about authority, who has authority to do what, how you're going to allocate resources, which is an extension of authority, and we've just talked a little bit about how disasters are triaged in terms of who's considered worth saving and who isn't, right? And the third thing is how do you prepare through a processes of collaboration? And if we don't know what each other has to bring to the table, then it doesn't make any difference if we have it in isolation.
Okay, well, I'm specifically interested in, especially when you just said who's worth saving and who is not. I ain't interested in the school teachers and nobody else. I want to know, what are we going to do about our 2.2 million brothers and sisters that's in these prisons? What kind of testimony did the guard give? Did they lead the brothers in there hollering and screaming in the cell while the waters rose on the first damn floor? Did, when you talking about FEMA and Brother William, you response, what kind of rules and policies do they teach you and train you to do regarding responding to brothers and sisters that's locked up in these prisons? What are the policies? We need to know, because I want to raise this issue and start a national movement because we dying up in there.
That's right. And the question is not just what are we going to do because they're in there when a disaster hits. The question is, why are they in there? So this whole issue
in there for, hey, Dr. Carruthers, listen, I don't want to get into nothing with you. They in there for a whole host of reasons.
I know. And
mainly because this government set us up to be in there.
That's my whole point.
You know what I mean?
Brother Abdullah, let her answer. Let her answer.
Just like they leave all our people dead in the street and nobody bury them. I'm sorry, but this is serious. This ain't no damn joke.
I understand.
I want to know, what do the government say their policy is regarding the incarcerated? Do they leave them to die, or do they let them out?
Brother, the answer to your question is, brother, the answer to your question relies whether or not martial law has been imposed. If martial law has been imposed, then you're under military jurisdiction. So that's a whole nother piece of operations that you're dealing with, because now you're dealing with something that is that runs under what's called the Geneva Conventions. In that situation, no civil authority has the authority to do anything. So basically, if that happens and martial law is declared, then they are at the mercy of the state. And there's nothing that a first responder, emergency responder can do to get to them, because they now are under the jurisdiction of the United States military.
Brothers and sisters, we have many other questions, but we're at that time. And we have another beautiful workshop coming right after for all of those that have worked hard over the past few months, over the past year, and went through their dynetics training. And now will be graduating by the blessing of God to be auditors. So we want to finish this session first. We want to thank this panel, and I wanted you to know that this discussion is not over. These panelists have said that they will continue. Information will be given in the mosque. They'll be given on the website of disaster kits, disaster preparedness training, everything that we will need to be prepared. This body and those that are sitting out there that have that expertise, let us come together and be able to give not just the Nation of Islam, but we can provide that information to any and everyone that all can say that the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gave me a way that I could save my life. Can we all commit to doing that? All praise due to Allah. Keep your hands clapping as we go down the line to Dr. Paul Servatka, Sister Aurelia, Dr. Iva, Brother Liddell, Brother Rudolph, Sister Alva, and Dr. Michael Baldwin, and Brother William, and even Brother Harold was out in the audience. We want to give them a big warm round of applause for being with us today. Please stay in your seat. We're going to move quickly into going into our graduation. So please, we're going to move quickly. Assalamu alaikum.